The teachings of Rabbi Ephraim Sprecher, Dean of Students at Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion, Jerusalem.
Parshat Tisa today, this week there was Purim. Did you know that, Chama? It was Purim this week? You didn't know?
Yes.
You missed it? Purim Katan, right? So where is there a reference to Purim in the Parsha? There has to be a reference to Purim in the Parsha because nothing happened for Chad. This week was Purim. The question is why we didn't celebrate it, David. Why? Normally, mitzvah shabal yotchal tachmitzena. A mitzvah comes to your hand, you don't let it go to waste, right? Ein ma'virin ala mitzvot. Zrizah magdimin la mitzvot. So if this week was Purim, Avram, why did we push it off until Adar Sheni? A mitzvah comes to your hand, you go for it, right? Talmud and Megillah asked that question. And the Talmud answers, you're right. Normally we grab a mitzvah as soon as we can. We don't let it get stale. But here there's another factor involved. What's the factor, Nechama? We want to put a winning streak back to back. We want to put the Geula of Purim next door to the Geula of what? Of the Exodus from Egypt. So therefore, we push off Purim until Adar Sheni to get it as close as possible to what? Redemption to redemption. Redemption from Persia, redemption from Egypt, and therefore we push off Purim to Adar Sheni. But there is a reference to Purim in this week's Parsha, but how could that be? The Torah was given 3,300 years ago. And Purim happened, Avi, 2,400 years ago. You're good in math, Avi. How much is 33 minus 24? 9. So Purim happened 9 centuries after what?
Torah.
So how could it be in the Torah? Well, let's take a look. If you have your book, it's just amazing. Exodus 30, verse 16, it says, Lakachtas kesef haki Purim. Incredible. Exodus 30, verse 16. Nechama, couldn't make this up. No, you ain't got a book, but maybe there is an extra book around. It says, you shall take the kesef haki Purim. What's the main mitzvah on Purim? To give money to poor people. That's the most important mitzvah of all the mitzvahs. So it says, you shall take the money of haki Purim like Purim. So here there's a veiled reference, Avram, to what? To Purim, Kesef on Purim. And just amazing that Mordechai, the Mordor, one of the chief psalmim, Exodus 30, verse 23, the Torah describes the Ketoret. Exodus 30, 23, you shall take Rosh Mordoror, the chief of the 11 herbs and spices. Remember the Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Colonel Avram, 11 herbs and spices. He got it from here. He's coming back to Israel. Baruch Hashem. All right. 11 herbs in this week's Parsha. Oh, no kawiki dinky. 11 herbs and spices. The chief of the spices was Mordoror. Unkala says, Merodachaya, Moredachia. Mordechai. Ooh, Quinky Dinky. Moredachia. Mordoror, Moredachia, Mordechaya. So here there's a veiled reference to what? To Mordechai in the Torah. That's just pretty incredible, guys. But you want to get something more incredible? Ray, I hope you're sitting down for this. If you count the letters in the Megillah, there's exactly 12,110 letters in the Megillah. You don't believe me? You can count. What's amazing about that? So what? 12,110 letters in Megillah. If you count from Bereshis Aleph to this verse, Exodus 30, 22, the word Mordoror is the 12,110 letter in the Torah happens to be Mordoror. Isn't that amazing? And it's Mordechaya. Unkala says, Mordechaya, Mordoror. So there's another veiled reference to what? To Mordechai, to the Purim story, encoded into what? Into the Torah, even though the Torah was given, Avi, how many? 9 centuries before, right?
What verse is it?
It's Exodus 30, verse 22. It says, the chief spices is Mordoror. Unkelos translates Mordoror, Merodachaya, or Mordechaya, which is a veiled reference to Mordechai. Then the Torah speaks about the Mizbach HaKtores. The Exodus 30, 27, it describes the incense offering, altar where they burned incense. Now, the highest service in the temple, Avram, was the Ketoret. But why are we studying about the Ketoret? We haven't got a Ketoret. We don't have any incense today. We ain't got a temple. Why are we studying? Look at the word Ketoret. Perik Lamed Pasuk Chav Zayin. The word Ketoret. Kuf, Tet, Reish, Tov. The Talmud says that the word Ketoret, which stands for incense, is actually, Avram, an acronym. FBI, CIA, NYPD. The Kuf stands for Kedusha. From the word Ketoret. The Kuf stands for Kedusha. The Tes stands for Tahara. The Reish stands for Rachamim. And the Tov stands for Tikva. If you want to sum up the Jewish religion in one acronym, it's the word Ketoret. Why is Ketoret the highest service of all the service in the temple? Much more than the sacrificing animals. That's important, but the most important is the Ketoret, because Ketoret is an acronym. The Jewish religion is actually the word Ketoret, Avram. The Kuf stands for Kedusha. What does Kedusha mean? Holiness. The Tes stands for Tahara, purity. See the word Ketoret? The Reish stands for Rachamim, loving compassion. And the Tov stands for what? Tikva. Tikva, hope. That's what it means to be Jewish. You got to have Kedusha, Tahara, Rachamim, and the most important, you have to have what? Tikva. You can never give up hope. You can never give up hope. No matter how bleak the situation looks, right? There's always Tikva. Tikva. Just amazing how in 1946 and 47, the situation in Israel looked hopeless. Mamish hopeless. There was a state. Britain blocked all the borders. They captured Jews coming in on refugee ships, and they sent them where? To Cyprus, and they sent them back to Europe. Right? The situation looked totally hopeless and bleak. And the Tikva, which Soloveitchik said, just amazing, that at the height of the Cold War, when Truman and Stalin were bitter enemies, the Soviet Union voted for partition for the state of Israel, which was unbelievable. Nobody believed it. How could the Soviet Union vote with the United States for partition of the state of Israel at the height of the Cold War? People freaked out. But this is Tikva. The situation looked hopeless. It never looked like going to have a Jewish state. And if the Soviet Union would not have voted for a Jewish state, it never would have happened. And nobody in their wildest dreams ever thought that Stalin, of all people, would vote for partition of the state of Israel. That's Tikva. When the situation looks hopeless, that's why that's our national anthem. A Jew can never give up hope. So in this week's Parsha, the word Ketoret. Now, the 11 herbs and spices, Avram, one was the Chelbana. Exodus 30, verse 34. One was the Chelbana. The Chelbana, Rashi said it had a very bad odor, the Chelbana. Rav Aryeh Kaplan says that the Chelbana was actually what? Marijuana. And therefore the Kahanim are very mellow. They call me mellow, yellow.
Only after the...
Right? The Kahanim were very... Twice a day they burned this stuff. And the Chelbana, Rav Aryeh Kaplan in the Living Torah says it was marijuana. It had a very bad odor. So why is... Ketoret is the highest service, the holiest service. Why the 10 other spices were smelling delicious? Why did you have this Bosem Reichoi Ra? Why is it in the holiest service? So Rashi says, Rashi quotes the Gemara in Krisus, to teach that what? That even Jews that don't smell good, meaning that they are what? Spiritually they don't smell good. They're full of sins. They are part of the mix. And if they're not there, no good. Even in the holiest service, the Rishoyim are represented. The foul-smelling Chelbana represents the Jewish people that don't smell well spiritually. They're doing a lot of Averot, but they must be part of the mixed. And if they're not there, God says, I don't accept your service. It's amazing. Every Jew counts, even a Jew that smells like a Chelbana. Spiritually, he does sins, There's always hope. There's always hope, Abraham. Right? You could do tshuva. That's right. There's always hope for tshuva, and therefore the Chelbara represents this year's Rasha could be next year's Tzaddik. And therefore they're part of the mix in the holiest service of all, in the Ketoret service of all. And the Torah here goes on and speaks about what? The Shabbat. The Shabbat on Exodus 31:16. The Jewish people shall observe the Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat. How do you make the Shabbos? Exodus 31, verse 16, it says, the Jewish people shall observe the Shabbat to make the Shabbat. How do you make the Shabbat? Doesn't the Shabbos come in automatically? What do you mean, make the Shabbat? You get a question on the table? What is the Torah telling me over here? The Jewish people, Shabbat. The Jewish people shall observe the Shabbat, guard the Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, to make the Shabbat. What does that mean? I understand to guard the Shabbos, to observe the Shabbos. You don't flick a bick, you don't tear toilet paper. But what does it mean to make the Shabbat? What do you mean? Shabbos comes in whether I make it or I don't make it. Make the cholent. What does it mean?
It's a spirit.
What?
It's a spirit.
Oh, so Nechama is saying very good. Nechama is saying if a Jew observes Shabbat in this physical world, he makes for him beautiful. Nechama, you're beautiful. Wow. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael at the Shabbat. That's what the Medrash says. If a Jewish person observes the Shabbat in this world, he makes for himself eternal Shabbat in Olam Haba. See, God creates this world. Who creates Olam Haba? We do. Thank you, Daniel. That's what it says here. If you observe Shabbat in this world, then you make for yourself an eternal Shabbat in the afterlife. You make the call.
Isn't it the same as isn't it the same as the parting of the Red Sea, or that the only way it could have happened is that you had to jump into it?
Right, the Nachshon wouldn't have jumped in. We're partnership with God, right? You're saying good. Yeah, go ahead.
Jump into Shabbat.
Go ahead.
You light your candles.
Go ahead.
You jump into Shabbat. And you say your bracha and you start Shabbat.
But wouldn't Shabbos come in anyway, whether you light the candles or not?
No.
Shabbos doesn't come in? Of course it comes in.
You have to come in with it.
Okay. You've got to enter the magic wonder kingdom called Shabbat. Right? So you make Shabbat. Nechama said beautifully. She said that. If you observe the Shabbos in the physical world, you make for yourself an eternal Shabbos in Olam Haba. Olam Haba is called what? Shabbat. Then Olam Haba, right? So that's what the Torah is teaching over here. Mechilta gives another explanation. Yeah, go ahead.
And extend Shabbat.
Go ahead.
Between lighting the candles ahead of the time Shabbat should come in.
You take in Shabbos early.
And then people who extend Shabbat beyond the
right, Tosat Shabbos, right?
You can do
You
that.
can take in Shabbos early and leave it late. Nachon?
Yeah.
But the Mechilta gives another interpretation. I think what Yosef was alluding to. If you observe the Shabbos, God says, I give you credit that you made the Shabbos. Mechilta says that. Because if you don't observe the Shabbos, Shabbos comes in, but there's no one there to acknowledge it. If a tree falls in the forest, nobody's there to hear it. So Mechilta says, only when the Jewish people observe Shabbos, then they make Shabbos fact on the ground. Because Shabbos can come in, but if we don't observe it, Chas v'sholom, who knows about it? Who cares? And therefore, we are called Adas Yisrael. We are called God's witnesses. Ada, Avram. Ada, Adat, from the word aid. We are God's witnesses.
That's why we stand for the Kiddush.
That's beautiful, Avram. That's why you stand for the Kiddush. Because when you make Kiddush, you're testifying. And the halacha is that witnesses have to what? Stand when they give testimony. Witnesses have to stand by your man. Witnesses have to stand when they testify. So therefore, when we make Kiddush on Friday night, what are we doing? We're testifying for God. We're testifying for God that He's the Creator. The Kiddush is our testimony. And therefore, the Talmud in Shabbos says, whoever makes Kiddush on Friday night, Nase shituf lakudish baruch hu b'masa bereshis. Avi, what does that mean? Nase shituf lakudish baruch hu b'masa bereshis. He becomes what? God's partner in creating the universe. Are you getting this? God's partner. Now, David, if you can hire a person for 40 shekels an hour, why would you make somebody a partner? You hear the question on the table, Connie? The Talmud in Shabbos is very exact, page 119. If you make Kiddush on Friday night, you become God's partner in creation. What does he need a partner for? He just hired a worker. What?
He doesn't want yes men. He wants partners. He wants somebody who loves him.
Rabbi Yosef, right? You can hire somebody 50 shekels an hour, right? The cleaners get that. Why would you make someone a partner? A partner means you can't do it yourself. When do you take a partner? Golda.
When you need them.
Otherwise you'd hire a worker. It's an incredible statement, Connie. When we make Kiddush on Friday night, God says, you're my partner. I couldn't do without you. Incredible. Because Ein Melech Below Am. You know what that means?
There's no king
without a kingdom, right? But no people. If there's no one to acknowledge him, then what good is it? So therefore, we make the Shabbos Avram. And therefore, there's another amazing statement in Tractate Shabbos, page 119. Rabbi Foyle, everyone who makes Kiddush Friday night and knows what they're saying, the Talmud says all of their sins are forgiven. Are you getting this, Evelyn? It's better than Kol Nidre night, because Yom Kippur night, you can't have your chopped liver and gefilte fish. Can you? Friday night, you're having a chicken soup with the kneidlach, and your chopped liver, and you're getting kapara. So Friday night, Shabbos page 119, Yehuda, got to tell the wife, is even greater than Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, you have to fast to get kapara. But Shabbos, you're feasting and you're getting kapara if you make Kiddush and you know what you're saying. Why? Was it hocus pocus? Why when you make Kiddush Friday night, or you hear Kiddush, Shemei Ka'oner, right, Chava? When you listen to things like you're saying it. So if you know what the words mean and you're concentrating, all your sins are forgiven. You don't got to wait till Yom Kippur. But why? Avi? Abracadabra, hocus pocus? No.
Glorification of God.
It's what?
Glorification
So
of
what?
God. No?
What's the halachic formula here, Golda? The Talmud Sanhedrin says that a rasha posoli edut. Someone that, you ever notice that the chasana, from chasanas, when they call up the witnesses, they'll see on the side they're going Oshavnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu. You notice at the Haredi wedding, no? The witnesses to the chasana, if the rabbi knows what he's doing, will tell the witnesses to do tshuva, to say vidui. Because a rasha posoli edut. If you're wicked, your testimony doesn't count. So you don't need the caterer and the photographer, but you need kosher witnesses. If the witnesses are Rishoyim Avram, Kiddushin never took place. So you'll notice at the Haredi wedding, next time you watch, on the side, the witnesses are saying vidui. Because if they're Rishoyim, their testimony is invalid. If it's invalid, nothing took place. Rasha Posol Yedus. Says the morale, God follows his own Torah. When we make Kiddush, what are we doing? We're testifying for him that he's the one and only. That the world is not Hefker. The world is a creator. But there's a catch-22. If we are Rishoyim, then our testimony is what? Invalid. And God follows his own rules. How do we know he follows his own rules? One second. Magid Devar of the Yaakov Chukav Vishpatal Yisrael. They're his chukim. We say Hallelujah every morning. So it says the morale, therefore, God has to forgive us when we make Kiddush. Otherwise, our testimony is what? It's posul. You hear that? Isn't that amazing?
We should say vidu before we say Kiddush.
You should say vidu. What?
Yeah, right.
You're right. But on Shabbos, you don't say vidui. You don't have to. Right?
It's automatic.
It's automatic. If you do tshuva, by saying the Kiddush, you're testifying for a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the tshuva. That if he's the one and only, and whatever happens only because of him, isn't that the essence of tshuva? Yeah. That no one can what? No one can give you a bad hair day, right? Or stub your toe, unless God ordained it. Chulun page 7. That's the essence of tshuva, that he's in charge. So when you make Kiddush, have in mind this Friday night, tomorrow night, right? That you're testifying for the big boss, And therefore, if you know what you're saying, you're getting what? A kapara, because otherwise a rasha apostle yedus, and therefore God has to forgive us because he follows his own Torah. Now, so here the Torah speaks about Shabbat, and Shabbat is oti la'olam. It is the eternal sign between God and the Jewish people. So the pasuk says that in 6 days God made heaven and earth. On the 7th day he rested and he was refreshed. Does the English say that? Exodus 31 verse 17. You have that? Does it? Yeah, Exodus 31, 17. We say this every Friday night in the davening, right?
He rested and was refreshed, the capital H.
He rested and he was refreshed. Does it say that, right? No?
Yes.
And Parshat 17?
Yeah.
It says, between me and the children of Israel is a sign forever.
Right.
And then in 6 day period, Hashem made heaven and earth. And on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. Yes.
Okay, then why does God have to rest and why does he have to get refreshed for? He doesn't get tired. Rashi asked the question, does God get tired? No. Right? So Rashi says something incredible. A person could never experience the sweetness of a Shabbos shluf after the children. Oh, what a sweet Shabbos shluf, you know? Unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what? Created it. So God rested not for his sake, but he wanted us to experience the sweetness of a Shabbos rest. And we can only experience that if he did it. So he did it not for his sake, for our benefit. So he created the concept of a Shabbos rest by doing it not because he needs it, because we need it. One day, Baruch Hashem, you can disconnect from the dumb phone. Right? No texting, WhatsApp. One day, we were sugar. People are obsessed. Thank God for that one day when you can disconnect from all the, how do you say Narishkeit in English?
Nonsense.
Oh, thank you. Nonsense. Thank God for the Shabbos. One day a week. Vayenofash. So the Talmud says that you get on the Shama Yetera on Shabbos. Vayenofash. You get an extra nefesh. Therefore, on Friday night, in the Sephardic shuls, they hand out what? Psamim. Why? Why? And Saturday night, why is that? Because the extra neshama comes in Friday night. So a neshama cannot be late to gefilte fish or chopped liver. It can't be late to that. But it can be made to smell. The word ruach, how do you say soul in Hebrew? A ruach. The same word as reyach. Because the neshama, the ruach, the spirit can relate to reyach. So when she comes in, the extra soul, we want to greet her. So therefore we give out psamim. And Motzei Shabbat, when she leaves, the soul that remains behind is depressed. Her soulmate is leaving, so to cheer her up, the neshama is feminine, we also use psamim. Because again, the neshama can relate to what? Reyach, ruach. The same word. The neshama is a ruach. The same word as what? As wind. You can't see the wind, can you? But you can feel it. So the same thing with the neshama, you can't see it, but you can feel it. Because without the neshama, the person is dead. And therefore the Talmud, the Sanhedrin says something strange. There used to be a minhag. Lo Yaleni, with the cemetery, at the funeral, the Jewish people would bring flowers to the cemetery. So the Zohar says why? Because the Zohar, Kabbalah teaches that the neshama, she attends her own funeral. The neshama is there. Till the grave is closed, the neshama is aware and present. And she's, of course, disoriented. She's frightened. Where am I? What's happening to me? So we bring flowers because this she can relate to. The soul gets nachas ruach from the reyach. Get it? Nachas ruach from the reyach. Wow. To calm her down. But we stopped doing it because the Gentiles did it. But the Gentiles took it from us to bring flowers to a cemetery to calm down the ruach through the reyach. So we have to know that. But we stopped doing what?
I bet they don't.
They don't even know where it comes from, right?
The Chiloni people bring flowers.
Okay, but that's the reason why. To give a nachas ruach, a nachas ruach to the ruach.
Wow.
A nachas ruach to the ruach. Get it?
Yes,
Because smell, Reb Nachman, is not something physical. See, a neshama can't be laid to a stake. To that you need a body. But a smell is a spiritual pleasure. That's totally spiritual. It's not physical.
That's like
Nachas ruach to the ruach.
That's like when I first became observant and I would bring in takeout food and filter fish.
Right?
There was something missing, so I made sure that I made chicken soup because nothing smelled as good as my chicken soup.
Uh-huh.
And then it really became now it's children.
Uh-huh. Now here the Jews made the terrible sin of the golden calf. Avram, you asked me about this. God and Moses play the blame game. Raphael, you getting this? If you look at Exodus 32:7, you'll have a book. Exodus 32:7, God tells Moses, get down from your greatness, that your people have corrupted themselves. So Rashi says, what do you mean your people? What do you mean your people? They're not Moses' people. They're God's people. So Rashi says, no, these are the Erev Rav. These are the mixed multitude, those phony converts, that they're the ones that built the Egel and corrupted the Jewish people. So God says, why did you take these guys along without proper vetting? Is that the word vetting? Vetting. You didn't vet them properly, and they corrupted the Jewish people, so therefore God blames Moses. I only gave you greatness for their sake. But now that they fall, God says, who needs you? At that hour, Abraham, Rashi says that the heavenly tribunal put Moses in cherem. How do you say that in English? Excommunication. Excommunication. Because you should have vetted them better. You should have not just taken mass conversions, and they are the ones. So God blames Moshe Rabbeinu for what?
For bringing the Arab.
For the Egel.
For the Egel too.
For the Egel. Shiches Amcha. It's not my kids. It's those phony converts that you took along. They corrupted my children. So God blames whom? Moshe. Later on, Moshe blames God. Say what? Take a look. And why tell me this? Look at Exodus 32. Exodus 32, verse 31. You have that? Exodus 32, 31. 32, 31. Moshe returns to God and he says what?
Want me to read it?
Please, in English.
Moshe returned to Hashem and said, I implore, this people has committed a grievous sin and made themselves a god of gold.
Now, we know that we made a god of gold. And God knows. So why rub it in? Why rub it in? Says Rashi something amazing. Moshe says to God, you caused them. Ato garamta lahem. You caused them to sin. You set them up. Are you getting this, Avraham? Because you gave them so much gold and silver. You ordered them to clean out all the jewelry stores in Cairo. Take the gold. God says, please take the gold. Take the gold. What should they do? They had to sin. Rashi gives a very frightening mashal, David. I couldn't repeat this, but Rashi gives this mashal. A king had a one and only beloved son. He had ausgeputzt. How do you say that in English? He wined and dined him, the best food, the best restaurants, and he bought him the most beautiful suits, and a Ferrari, and a Audi, and whatever, what else there? Ferrari, Audi, Alfa Romeo, Porsche. And he gave him an unlimited credit card. And he put him the Petach Bet Zonot. I say that in English. He put him in the front of a red light district. Ma yasa ben shelo yechta. What should the son do that he couldn't sin? The Jewish people, they were in Egypt. All they saw was idolatry and immorality. That's all they saw. You took them out. You gave them all of this unlimited gold and jewelry and silver. You wined and dined them. It's like you set them up. They had no choice but to sin. So here, Avram, I think it's called the blame game. Here, Moshe Rabbeinu blames the victim. Who's the victim here? God. It's incredible. Now, why tell me this? Why tell me this? It's an amazing Zohar. So you would think Moses would say to God, that's how you talk to me, you're fired.
Boom.
No! Bila, at the end of the Parsha, Moshe comes down and he has the Shekhinah on his face. Why was he Zoichet to have the Shekhinah on his face? Why? Because he stood up for the Jewish people. L'chein zocha Moshe l'Shekhinah al panav, says the Zohar. Because he was Melamed Tzchus on Am Yisrael. He was Melamed Tzchus on Am Yisrael. So if it took blaming God to spare the Jewish people, he did it, and God rewarded him, didn't fire him, he gave him a bonus where he came down the mountain, he had the Shekhinah on his face.
He tested.
What?
He was tested, Moshe.
Moshe was that, but the message for us is that we should always be Melamed Tzchus on Yidden. That's the message. Stand up for the Jewish people. Defend them. Ad kedei kach, that Moses, to defend us, blamed God for setting us up. It's just an amazing idea, and for that he gets rewarded with what? With the Shekhinah on his face. That's just amazing. Now, we know that the Parsha of the week always speaks to current events, right? Never fails, right? So God tells Moses in Exodus 32, verse 34, go lead the people. In the day when I visit, I will visit their sins on them. That's what it says. So Rashi says that what? That every time the Jewish people are punished, part of the reason is the golden calf. But Rashi, how could you say such a thing? Doesn't God say he only visits the sin of the parents on the children only up to the 4th generation? It's been many more generations since the Egels, over 3,300 years. So how could Rashi say that Kodesh Baruch Hu says, whenever I punish the Jewish people, there's always what? Part of the golden calf in the mix. And that goes against Exodus 34, verse 7, that God will only punish the parents, the children, only up to the 4th generation. You get the question?
But isn't there a golden calf in every generation?
Yosef beat me to the punch.
Very good.
Sorry about that.
In Hebrew, you say, Evelyn, you say, Oto geveret b'shinu aderet. Oto geveret b'shinu aderet. The same witch with a different cloak. Remember the wicked witch of the west? Black cloak, red. Rashi's not talking about the Egel Azov. Every generation, Ray has their Egel. Whether it's communism, socialism, humanism, who's in the forefront?
Materialism.
It's all Jews. New Ageism. Now, you just come to hear this word. This is a game changer. Exodus 34:7. Exodus 34:7. Notze chesed v'alofim. The Yid Gimel Midas Harachamim. The 13 attributes of God's loving mercy. David, Exodus 34:7. You have a giant nun there. In the Torah is a giant nun. Twice the normal size. You have it there, Exodus 34:7? Right? No, it's not big?
Yes, the beginning of
I have it.
How big is it?
twice as big.
In the Torah, it's really big. How big is it, Connie? It's really big. Why? Why? What? Notze chesed v'alofim. What does that mean? Preserving loving kindness for thousands of generations. God preserves kindness for thousands of generations. Whose kindness does God preserve? No.
No such.
Look at Rashi. Avram, Kleinchik Rashi. Sha'adam oseh lefanov. God preserves the chesed that a human being does for God. Say what, Billa? How could a little old me do a chesed for the big boss? But that's what Rashi says. Rashi said it. You can take it to the bank, Avi. Notze chesed alofim, preserving kindness. For God preserves the kindness that we do, says Rashi. Adam oseh lefanav, that a human being does a kindness for God. How do we do a kindness for God? Every time you do a chesed for what? A fellow person, God says it's a twofer. Therefore, the nun is double size. I'm not joking. The nun is twice the size. Because whenever you do a chesed for a fellow human being, especially a Jew, but any human being, God says you're doing me a chesed.
Oh my God.
It's a twofer. Double your pleasure, double your fun. Connie, therefore the word notzer, the nun is double size. You getting this?
Oh, I got it.
Because every human being has a tzelem Elohim. Every human being has a part of God inside of him. So God says, when you do a chesed for another human being, God says, you're doing also a chesed for me. Therefore, any mitzvah between man and man is what? Twice as good. It's a twofer. David, it's a twofer. You're pleasing the person, and you're pleasing the part of God that lives inside of him. The tzelem Elohim, the tzedek Elohim. And therefore, the nun is double size, Avi. The chesed that we do for God. An amazing Rashi over here.
That's Rashi.
Rashi says that. The chesed that we do to God. How do we do chesed for God? By doing a chesed to another person. You're doing a chesed for the big boss. Wow, who knows this? Nahama. Right? You know it. Every time you smile on somebody, some people don't have money. You smile on somebody, you give him a shmeichel, doesn't cost any money. So you make him happy, you're making God happy. David, a shmeichel doesn't cost any money. Some people like they're constipated, they can't smile. You know, it doesn't cost any money. You cheer somebody up. Guy's having a bad hair day, and you cheer him up. Who are you cheering up?
God.
Who said so? Not me. Rashi. Rabban Shel Yisrael says that. She'odam oisel afanov. Wow. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible. Now, it's just amazing that the golden calf, how could the Jewish people commit such a terrible sin just 40 days after we said I do? 40 days later, such a terrible sin. Terrible. The Gemara in Shabbos, page 89, says that we were set up. What? Satan showed the Jews a vision. They saw Moses, a dead Moses, being born on the wings of eagles, on the wings of angels. And in broad daylight, there was pitch blackness. So Satan said that what? Moses is dead. You guys are stuck here. There's no way out. So they got David a panic attack. Panic attack? Panic attack. So they panicked and made the golden. Why did God allow Satan to trick us? Now, to believe that Satan acts independently, Bill, that's classic idolatry.
Right.
Satan's just a robot. He works for the big boss. So why would God allow Satan to trap and to trick us, to make us believe that Moses is dead, there's no hope for us? Why would God do that? Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Likutei Suchas, volume 16. It was a setup to teach the awesome power of tshuva, that a Baal tshuva stands much higher than a tzaddik gomer. God wanted to show that even after a terrible sin, when you do tshuva, every yerida could be the tzorech aliyah. Sometimes you have to go really down in order to what? Go up higher.
Sometimes. Always.
You know why Moshe broke the tablets? The best part of making up
Is
No, the other way. Don't mix me up. The best part of breaking up is making up. Don't you get it? Phil Spector, 1964. Not Sprecher. Phil Spector wrote that song. Not Sprecher. In 1964. I'm rejuvenating those songs. I'm rejuvenating them. I don't know if he's still alive, Phil Spector, but...
You're making them better.
He sang. That's why Kodesh Baruch Hu said, yes, the best part of breaking up is making up. The second tablets are much holier. What's the proof that the second tablets are holier? They never got broken. They never got broken. Raphael, did Moshe have the Shekhinah on his face when he came down with the first tablets? No.
He was mad.
No. Only after we sinned with the Egel. And we did tshuva. And God gave him the second tablets. Only then did he have what? The Shekhinah on his face.
When he succeeded.
So to prove, Lubavitcher Rebbe says, to prove that after we sinned, we did such a great tshuva, that every time we looked at Moshe's face, we saw the Shekhinah. Not once, but every day for 40 years. Now, there's an amazing verse here. I wonder if the English got it right, Avram. Maybe you can help me. Exodus 34:10. Exodus 34:10. This is after the sin of the golden calf. After the sin of the golden calf, right? Exodus 34:10. God says to him, Exodus 34:10. I'll wait. Clock is ticking. Go ahead. Can you read it aloud?
He said,
God said to Moses.
all right, here he said, behold, I seal a covenant. Before your entire people I shall make distinctions such as never been created in the entire world and among all the nations. And the entire people among who you are will see the work of Hashem, which is awesome, that I am about to do with you.
Close, but no cigar. What it actually says is, God says, I'm about to do something more marvelous. Niflaot. Nifla. What does nifla mean? Wonder of wonder. Asher lo nivra b'chol haaretz, which was never done on the face of the earth. Ramban wonders, this is after giving of the Torah. Avram. This is after Dan Quayle, after the Mon, after the 10 plagues, after the Red Sea. Ramban says, listen, I checked here, and I didn't see anything that's more marvelous than giving of the Torah. Or the splitting of the Red Sea, or the Exodus. What is God talking about? You ain't seen nothing yet, Evelyn. You think giving of the Torah was something, Reb Nachum? You think splitting of the Red Sea was something? You think Dan Quayle and the Mon is something? You ain't seen nothing yet. That's what God says. That's what Hebrew says. Eseh, Lashon Atid. I'm going to do something more marvelous that will make all the other miracles, Daniel, including giving of the Torah, pale by comparison.
That was the speech.
What? This is after the splitting of the Red Sea, Billo. Check the text. This is much later. But looking further, Ramban said, I don't find nothing more spectacular than splitting of the Red Sea or giving the Torah. What is God talking about? Look at the end of the verse. Ashani ose imach, the last 4 words of Abraham, that I'm about to do with you. See the last 4 words? What is God talking about? The Shekhinah on Moshe's face. The Ramban says, listen what's going on over here. God split the Red Sea, right? It was one night. We saw the Shekhinah one night. God gave us the 10 Commandments. So we saw the Shekhinah. How long did it take Connie to give us the 10 Commandments? 45 minutes? I don't know, an hour. How long did it take God to speak the 10 Commandments? How long? An hour, 2 hours? So we saw him for an hour or 2. Here, we didn't see God for an hour or 2. Every day for 40 years, when we looked at Moses' face, what did we see? The Shekhinah. And that we got only when? After the sin of the golden. It's mind-boggling. Rav Soloveitchik and the Balcher Rebbe, they're both on the same page. No, they're both students together in Berlin in 1920. So it's the same idea. They say, look, after the sin of the golden calf and after the tshuva, the Jewish people what? Marviach. How do you say marviach in English?
They earned.
They profited. They gained a bonus. Because before the sin of the golden calf, they didn't have the Shekhinah on Moshe's face. It's only as a result of the sin and turning the sin into a win did we see the Shekhinah not once, not one night or one afternoon, but every day for 40 years, and that is a result of the sin and the tshuva, proving that Abal Tshuva, David, stands much greater than what? Than a tzaddik omer. Because you turned that sin into a win. You turned the sin into a mitzvah, right? And to prove that, therefore, says Lubavitcher Rebbe, Likutei Sichos, volume 16, therefore, God allowed Satan to what? To entrap us, deceive us, trick us, to prove the awesome power of tshuva, that you can become even better and closer after the sin. And this proved where God said, I'm going to do something more marvelous than all the previous miracles that were done previously. You ain't seen nothing yet. This is the Shekhinah. When Moshe came down the mountain, he had the Shekhinah on his face, and they saw every day for 40 years. Another reference to Purim. Look at the end of the Parsha. This week, this Parsha always comes out Purim time. This week was Purim, Katan. Look at the maftir, guys. Exodus 34, verse 33. Exodus 34, 33. Go ahead, Rabbi Abraham.
Moses finished speaking with them and placed the mask on his face.
Who's that masked man? Dr. Abrams, who's that masked man? Masveh, Purim. It can't be a coinky dinky, Daniel, even though Purim happened 9 centuries what? Not earlier, later. What mixing me up for? 9 centuries later. But this week's Parsha always comes out, Golda, the week of Purim. It can't be a quinky dinky. Kesef HaPurim, it says, beginning, the end of the Parsha, Moshe put a mask on his face. Ooh. Who's that masked man? Now, when did Moshe wear the mask? When he was teaching Torah to the Yidden? People make a mistake. No. Take a look at verse 33 very slowly. When Moshe made an end of speaking with them, who's them? Then he put a mask on. Billa, don't shake. Look at I'm a text. Look at the text. It's a big mistake. People think that he wore the mask when he was speaking to the Jews. No, it says when he, right? 33. Can you read it slowly? 33?
Moses finished speaking with them.
When Moses finished speaking to them, who's them?
Us.
And placed the mask on his face.
When? After he spoke with us, then he put the mask on.
Before, there was nobody there. There's nobody there. What does he got to put a mask on?
So when did he put the mask on? When he went to the bathroom. When he went to the bathroom. Or he went to pay his bills in the post office. When he was engaged in mundane matters, he wore the mask. When he was speaking to the Jews and speaking to God, he didn't wear the mask. So the Jews saw the Shekhinah on his face every day for 40 years. When he finished speaking to them and had to attend to his chores, then he put the hood on.
Is that why?
To his, helping his wife in the kitchen, making sponja, right?
That's his wife.
Okay.
Is that why
That's his
when
wife.
a great rabbi speaks, his face seems to shine?
That's right.
He teaches.
You see great rabbis today,
eyes
their
and his
face
face.
shine. I'm not joking. You look at Rav Chaim Kanevsky's face.
I was just going
It
to say.
shines. They have the Shekhinah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Shekhinah. Isn't that incredible?
I went to his house.
His face lights up the
saw
room.
him move.
You mamish.
I went to
Right?
his
That's
wife.
why I have the transition
I
lens.
went to
What?
Your face is shining, so I have the transition lens.
Oh, he wears sunglasses.
And he just walked by,
What?
and there was a light. I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it.
What? It really,
A light.
the Shekhinah on the person's face. That's right. See, every person has part of the Shekhinah inside of him, but you have to what? Let her out. Right? Every person. But God says you got to really let me out. Right? Right? Let me shine through. Right? That's pretty amazing how you have the word masveh, the Purim mask, in masveh in modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew, mask, masveh, modern Hebrew.
Masveh.
Masveh, that's right. Here you have right here in the maftir, Exodus 34:33.
Masecha.
Masveh. Masveh means a mask, and we're all wearing a mask, whether we know it or not.
Our faces,
Huh?
our bodies.
Bodies are a mask. Who's that masked man, Avram? Therefore, a face is called a panim. Why is it in plural panim? A face is called Ashena Punim. Ashena Punim. Why is the word face in the plural? A person only has one face, not faces. But the Hebrew word Yehuda, panim means what? Faces. But the last time I checked, the person only has one face. You hear the question on the table? The answer is that the word panim comes from the word pnim.
Inside.
The face, says the Ari, is a reflection of what goes on inside. Your face is a window to what's your neshama inside.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. The Ari would look at someone's face, he could tell you where your neshama is. Pretty amazing. Therefore, the word chayim in Hebrew also is plural. Chayim. Lives. What do you say? Guy's name is Chaim or Chaim. To life. Why is it in the plural, Avi? Because we live in parallel worlds. There's a physical life, but there's what? Eternal life, spiritual life. So the word Chaim. The word Mayim. is also plural. Waters. Mayim, because water is a symbol of what? Torah. So it's plural. Just like the body can't live without what? Water. The soul can't live without what? There's a lot of walking zombies out there. Remember the movie Night of the Living Dead? Never mind that? Oh. Night of the Living Dead. Well, there's a lot of zombies out there.
There's also 2 hydrogen atoms in the...
But that's why the word is what? The word is Chayim. Now, how do we know that God gave us 2 Torahs? I'm a text man. Exodus 34:27. 34:27. I wonder how the English translates that. 34:27. God says to Moshe, go ahead.
Write these words for yourself. For according to these words have I sealed a covenant with you and Israel.
Doesn't say that. Let's go to Hebrew. I don't know. Write down these words. Ki al pi hadvorim eile. What does the word pi mean? Peh. What is peh? Mouth. Why can't they translate properly? Can you send them an email? Everything. Why do you have to play with the text for? Why do you got to play with the Billa? Can you send them an email? Why do you play with the text for? Right? God says, Moses, write down these words, because according to the mouth of these words, I cut you a treaty. What does that mean? So Gemara in Gittin, page 60 says, Ksav L'cha is what? Torah Shebiktav, and Al-Pi is Torah Shebal Peh. So God gave us what? 2 Torahs. Torah Shebiktav and Torah Shebal Peh. The word Pi and Peh is the same word. So this proves that what? That we received 2 Torahs. The written Torah, and we received the Torah Shebal Peh. Because God says so clearly in Exodus 34:27. Now, Al-Pi, what does Pi mean? You know Hebrew better than me. The word Peh. That's the mouth Torah. The oral Torah. Ki Al-Pi advorim eile kvat itcha bris.
And where's the written Torah?
Ksav L'cha. Look at the text, the Hebrew.
Okay.
Ksav L'cha.
Yeah.
Ki Al-Pi advorim eile. Now the covenant is next to which Torah? Sarah. Al-Pi advorim eile kvat itcha bris. The Gemara in Gittin 60 points out that the covenant is dafka written next to Torah Shebal Peh. See that? Ki al-pi advorim eile, Yehuda karati itcha brit. The brit is written next to Torah Shebal Peh and not to Torah Shebiksav. Oh, Sarah hit a home run. Why is the word brit, covenant that God makes with us, why is that written only next to Torah Shebal Peh and not Torah Shebiksav? Why? So the Gemara in Gittin says that the Iker covenant that God made with us is Torah Shebal Peh, because the word Karati Itcha Brit is next to Al-Pi Advorim, not next to Ksav L'cha. So Gemara, versteh? So the question is why? Why is the Iker Bris, the everlasting covenant between us and God, is dafka written next to Torah Shebal Peh and not Torah Shebiksav? Sarah gave an answer. I have on my own, okay? But she gave a great answer.
And that was again?
Torah Shebiksav is all God.
Torah
Shebal Peh, we're partners. How do we know we're partners? The Shaila, who is the halachic mother? The egg donor or the birth mother? It's a Shaila very common today. A woman does an IVF. She's Jewish, but the egg donor is what? From a Gentile lady. She gives birth with a Goyish lady's egg. Is the child Jewish or does she need Gehut? You won't find that in the written Torah. That's only in the partnership Torah. Sarah, beautiful. Bueno. You don't.
What's the answer?
What the answer? The oral Torah says that the birth mother it decides. Not the donor, but it's a whole different. But why? But the bottom line is that the birth mother is the halachic mother. So if the egg donor is non-Jewish and the birth mother is what? Jewish. The child does not need gerut.
Right.
Because the birth mother determines the halachic status and not the egg donor. So it's the other way around. If the egg donor is what? A Jewish woman, and the birth mother is non-Jewish, the child is not Jewish. Then the child needs gerut. So
that's why they call it a living Torah, because
that's the living Torah, beautiful. The living Torah. You hear what Sarah said?
Yeah.
So therefore God says, you and me and you are partners in the oral Torah. A DNA. Can DNA determine a mamzer? Right? The wife, the husband accuses the wife of adultery. The wife said, I didn't do it, right? And you do DNA. Does halacha recognize DNA that it's not his child? You won't find that in the written Torah. You'll find that in the partnership Torah. And there's hundreds of cases like that. Hundreds of cases like that. Where we're God's partner. So therefore, if we're partners, so happy together. See, the first tablets, it was all God. God supplied the sapphire stone, and he also supplied what? The writing. Didn't last. The second tablet was a partnership. Moses hacked and he chiseled out the sapphire stone, and he schlepped it up. An 80-year-old man schlepped it up the mountain, no escalator. And then God wrote the words. So the first was all God. The tablets and the writing was God. The second, partnership. Moses supplied the tablets and God supplied the writing. Which is holier? You'd ask me, I'd say what? The first. It's all God. But no.
It says no.
How do I know no? Because it's busted up. It's dafke when me and God and I do it together has more kedusha. Therefore the second tablets, because it's a partnership, Evelyn is what? Holier than the first. And Rav Soloveitchik explained this idea. Har Sinai, same idea. God revealed himself in all of his glory. Spoke the Ten Commandments. Does Har Sinai have any kedusha today? No, we don't even know where it is, and we don't even care. How come there's no Chabad house there? Har Sinai, no Chabad house? All over the world, but not there. God revealed himself, and he spoke to us face to face, and nobody knows where it is, nobody cares. Temple Mount, God never revealed himself face to face. Temple Mount is just as holy today as when the building stood there. Why? God never revealed himself. So Rav Soloveitchik said, who sanctified Har Sinai? God. We had no input. We sat back and watched the show. When the show is over, what do? You go home. But who sanctified Mount Moriah? Abraham and Yitzchak. The Mesiras Nefesh. When we and God do it together is everlasting value. Therefore, Har Sinai has no Kiddush at all because we had no input. And Mount Moriah, when Abraham and Yitzchak, together with God, infused it, therefore that Kiddush is eternal. When God and us do it together, so happy together. What? Isn't that amazing?
For more of Rabbi Sprecher's teachings, visit rabbisprecher.com.